Hi, you're watching Echoes of Life. I used to think love was enough. That if a man said he loved you, if he promised you the world and looked you in the eyes with warmth, then nothing else mattered. For years, I clung to that belief like it was my lifeline. I was his wife, his partner, his confidant. I thought I was his everything. But love, I discovered, is far more complicated. I still remember the first time I noticed it, a shadow in his gaze, a pause in his touch. We were lying in bed, the world outside quiet, and yet I felt a distance between us so sharp it was almost physical. His hands moved over me, but his eyes were elsewhere. He kissed me, but the passion felt borrowed, like it belonged to someone else. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I wasn't as exciting, as daring, as the women he passed on the streets or saw on glowing screens late at night. Maybe I had grown too comfortable, too soft, too familiar. But the truth revealed itself, slowly, cruelly. He loved me? Yes. He said it often, whispered it against my hair, told me I was the reason he breathed. But when night came, when desire surged, I was no longer the woman he longed for. He wanted someone else. He imagined another body, another face, another woman, entirely. The first time I realized this, I felt something inside me crack, like porcelain dropped on the floor, shattered into invisible pieces. Is something wrong? I asked him once, my voice barely a whisper. He froze. His body stiffened, and then he smiled, that easy smile I had once fallen in love with. No, love, everything's perfect. But his eyes betrayed him. They always did. Nights became longer, heavier. I lay next to him in bed, listening to his breathing, wondering if he was dreaming of me or of her, some phantom woman who had replaced me in the chambers of his mind. I tried harder, dressed differently, touched him with more urgency, laughed more, cooked his favorite meals. But the truth is, you can't compete with a ghost. Because a ghost is perfect. A ghost has no flaws. And in his head, she was everything I wasn't. The worst part wasn't his desire for another woman. It was the fact that he still loved me. That contradiction ate at me like acid. If he had stopped loving me, maybe I could have left sooner. Maybe I could have spared myself the slow death of comparison. But no, he loved me. He needed me. And yet he longed for her. I felt like a home he returned to every night, warm and familiar. But I wasn't the fire he craved. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind a battlefield of questions. Why am I not enough? What does she have that I don't? How can love exist without desire? And every morning, I put on a smile, wore my role like armor, and pretended I didn't notice. But I did. Every day. Every touch. Every kiss that didn't belong to me. And deep down, I knew this would be the beginning of my undoing. Love doesn't always end with slammed doors or shouted words. Sometimes it dies in silence, slowly, invisibly, like a candle burning out while you stare at the flame, too stubborn to admit it's fading. That's what it felt like with him. Every morning, he kissed me before leaving for work, just as he always had. Every evening, he came home, dropped his keys on the counter, and asked how my day was. From the outside, nothing had changed. To our friends, we were still the couple everyone admired, the steady pair who had survived the storms of life and still held hands in public. But I knew better. When he looked at me, I was no longer the woman he wanted. I was the woman he had. And that knowledge was a dagger in my chest. It started small, in moments that seemed insignificant. The way he avoided my eyes during intimacy, the hesitation in his hands when he touched me as if he had to remind himself of where he was. and the sigh soft, almost imperceptible when it was over. One night, I turned toward him after we'd made love, searching for the warmth I used to find in his embrace. But instead of pulling me closer, he rolled onto his back and closed his eyes. Tears stung my own, but I bit them back. "Do you still desire me?" I asked, the words trembling as they left my lips. His eyes opened slowly, shock flashing across his face. "What kind of question is that?" he said, too quickly, too defensively, but he didn't answer. Not really. And that silence told me everything. The cruelest betrayal is not physical. It's when your partner lies next to you, but their mind is elsewhere. When their body is with you, but their heart and hunger belong to someone else. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, that I was being insecure, paranoid, but my heart knew. A woman always knows when her man no longer burns for her, and yet he still loved me. That was the trap I couldn't escape. He bought me flowers. He remembered my favorite tea. He wrapped his coat around my shoulders when I was cold. He loved me in every way, except the one that mattered most. It was torture. The longer it went on, the deeper the cracks grew inside me. My confidence shattered, piece by piece. I found myself staring in the mirror, searching for flaws I hadn't noticed before. Was it my body, my face, my age? I started buying lingerie I never would have dared to wear before, experimenting with makeup, even dyeing my hair. Each time, I waited for his reaction, for a spark of desire in his eyes, but it never came. He would smile, kiss me softly, tell me I looked beautiful. But the hunger was missing. The hunger I knew he saved for her, the faceless woman who haunted our marriage. And so, every night when the lights went out, I felt myself fading. Not because he stopped loving me, but because love without desire is like a body without breath. Empty. Lifeless. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, I whispered into the dark, "Who is she?" His body stiffened. Silence stretched between us like a blade. Finally, he turned to me, his expression unreadable. "There's no one else," he said. But I didn't believe him, because sometimes betrayal doesn't need proof. Sometimes you just feel it. And I felt it every second of every day. There's a kind of madness that creeps in when you love someone who doesn't fully want you anymore. It whispers in your ear at night, asking questions you can't silence. Who is she? What does she have that I don't? Does he think of her when he's with me? I hated myself for wondering, but the thoughts never stopped. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found something strange. A small slip of paper tucked into his jeans pocket. It wasn't a love note, not exactly. Just a phone number, written in a delicate hand with a heart drawn beside it. My breath caught. My chest tightened. I stared at that number for what felt like hours, my mind spinning with every possible explanation. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was just business. But the heart was a confession all on its own. I wanted to scream, to throw the paper in his face, to demand the truth. But instead, I tucked it back where I found it. My hands trembled as I folded the jeans neatly, as if nothing had happened, because I wasn't ready to know. That night, when he kissed me hello, I felt sick. His lips were warm, familiar, but my mind saw the shadow of another woman behind him. When he touched me, I imagined her skin beneath his hands. It was unbearable, and yet I stayed quiet. Why? Because admitting it out loud meant admitting that everything I feared was true. And if it was true, then what did that make me? A fool? A coward? A wife too afraid to face the reality of her marriage? I wasn't ready to be any of those things. So I tried harder. I cooked his favorite meals. I wore the perfume he once said drove him crazy. I lit candles in our bedroom, creating the kind of atmosphere we used to lose ourselves in. And for a brief moment, it worked. That night, he touched me with something close to hunger. He whispered my name in the dark, pulling me closer, kissing me like he used to. My heart soared. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe I could still win him back. But then he slipped. In the middle of it, he whispered a name. And it wasn't mine. I froze. My body turned to stone beneath his. He didn't notice at first, but when he finally pulled away, the look on his face told me everything. Panic, guilt, horror. We didn't speak. Not that night, not the next morning. But silence can scream louder than words ever could. And in that silence, I knew. There was another woman. She wasn't just in his thoughts. She was in our bed, living inside every touch, every kiss, every breath between us. I was no longer his only love. I was his habit, his comfort, his safety. And she was his desire. When a lie finally shows itself, it doesn't come like a thunderstorm. It doesn't crash into your life with fire and lightning. No, it seeps in slowly, poisoning every breath until you can't ignore it anymore. That's what happened to me. The morning after he whispered her name, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my untouched coffee. My hands wrapped around the mug, desperate for warmth, but nothing could thaw the cold inside me. He walked in like nothing was wrong. Hair tousled, tie half done, humming softly as he scrolled through his phone. He kissed the top of my head as if he hadn't betrayed me in the most intimate way possible just hours before. "Big meeting today," he said, casually, grabbing his briefcase. "Wish me luck?" I stared at him, my throat burning with words I couldn't say. Who is she? Why her? Why not me? Instead, I whispered, "Good luck." My voice cracked. He didn't notice. That day, I broke. I spent hours pacing the living room, my mind replaying everything. The late nights, the distant stares, the slip of paper in his pocket, the wrong name whispered in our bed. It all lined up like pieces of a cruel puzzle. By evening, when he came home, I was ready. "I need to ask you something," I said, standing in the doorway with my arms crossed, my heart pounding. He froze. "Okay. Who is she?" The words cut through the air, sharp and merciless. His eyes widened. For a second, I saw the truth flicker there. Panic, guilt, recognition. But then, just as quickly, he masked it with a smile. "There's no one else," he said softly, stepping toward me. "Don't," I snapped. My voice shook, but my anger was stronger than my fear. "Don't lie to me. You said her name. You carry her number. You look at me, but your mind is somewhere else. With her." Silence. I watched him crumble in that silence. His shoulders sagged. His eyes dropped. And finally, he spoke the truth. "Yes," he whispered. The ground fell out from under me. I wanted him to deny it, to fight for me, to tell me I was imagining it all. But instead, he confessed. "Yes. There's someone else, but it's not what you think." Rage surged inside me. "Not what I think? You said her name in our bed. How much worse could it be?" He reached for me, desperate, pleading. "I still love you. You're my wife. You're my life. But I can't." His voice cracked. "I can't stop wanting her." That was the moment my heart shattered. Because love, once shared, is never whole again. He wanted me, but he also wanted her. And no matter what promises he made, I would never be enough. And I couldn't live like that. So I said the words that burned my tongue, but freed my soul. then you can't have me. The night I told him he couldn't have me, something inside me shifted. It wasn't courage, not yet. It was survival. I packed a small bag, just a few clothes, my journal, and the necklace my mother gave me when I was 18. My hands trembled as I zipped it shut, but my decision was clear. I couldn't stay in a house where love had turned into betrayal. He found me in the bedroom doorway, the bag in my hand. Where are you going? His voice cracked with panic. Away. Please. He stepped closer, his eyes glassy. Don't do this. Don't leave. I can fix this. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, we can't. You broke something in me that can't be put back together. He reached out, grabbing my wrist, his grip desperate. I love you. I pulled free. If you loved me, I would have been enough. The silence after that was unbearable. He stood frozen, staring at me like I was slipping through his fingers. And in a way, I was. I walked past him, each step heavier than the last. Down the hallway, where our wedding photos hung. Past the living room, where we'd spent Sunday mornings tangled on the couch. Through the kitchen that once smelled of laughter and burnt toast. Every corner of that house was soaked with memories. But memories can't save you when the present is killing you. Outside, the night air was cool against my skin. I breathed deeply for the first time in months. My heart ached, but it also beat with something I hadn't felt in so long: freedom. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what tomorrow would look like, but I knew one thing for certain. I deserved better than being a second choice in my own marriage. That night, I checked into a small hotel by the edge of town. The room smelled of stale coffee and lemon cleaner, but to me, it was sanctuary. I sat on the bed, my bag at my feet, and finally let the tears fall. Not just for him, not just for us, but for the woman I used to be, the woman who believed love was enough to hold everything together, because now I knew better. Love isn't enough when it's divided, and yet, even as I wiped my face, I realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning of becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who could walk away from betrayal and still find herself whole on the other side. Morning light slipped through the thin hotel curtains, painting my room in shades of pale gold. I hadn't slept much, but for the first time in months, I woke without the weight of his shadow pressing down on me. I poured myself weak coffee from the machine, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at my reflection in the mirror across the room. My eyes were swollen, my hair a mess, but there was something new in my face, a quiet strength. My phone buzzed with messages. Please come home. I can't do this without you. You're my everything. I stared at them until the screen went dark. A month ago, I would have run back at the first word, clinging to the hope that he could still choose me, that love could still fix us. But not now. Now I saw the truth. Love built on lies rots from the inside out. And I refused to keep living in that rot. I opened my journal and wrote the words that had lived in my chest since the night I walked out. I am not his second choice. I am my own first. The ink smeared slightly from my tears, but I smiled through them. They weren't tears of heartbreak anymore. They were tears of release. Later that day, I packed my bag again, but this time with purpose. I wasn't running anymore. I was moving forward. I booked a small apartment on the other side of the city. Nothing fancy, just a space that was mine. When I placed the key in the lock for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in so long. Peace. No ghosts of whispered names. No shadows of another woman. No pretending, just me. Rebuilding from the ruins. Sometimes I wonder if he ever thinks of me when he's with her. Sometimes I wonder if he regrets choosing desire over devotion. But then I remember it doesn't matter anymore, because I chose me. Walking away wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of self-love. And in that truth, I found my freedom. Goodbye wasn't weakness. Goodbye was the bravest thing I'd ever done.